Hey, what's up? So, tonight we were supposed to meet, but because just with the potential of ice later when all this kind of mushy stuff starts to freeze up, I didn't really want to take the risk. So, as it turns out, I really do care about everybody. But I at least wanted to kind of get some thoughts because I feel like it's been forever since we have met consistently with winter and then the break and everything that's been going on. And so I at least wanted to have something that we could think about as far as our topic of talk tonight, because I think that it's an interesting one with science and God and evolution and all that stuff. Because a lot of times we can look at that and we can think, okay, so there's this argument, there's this fight between faith and science, when really there isn't as much as sometimes is thought there is. And so, thought there is. It sounded right in my head when I first started that, and then now not so much. But anyway, so when we look at science and faith, we shouldn't necessarily just think that they're opposing. What is the difference? What is opposing is theism and atheism, right? So that's the difference, not science and God. Because God is the author of science, right? Because science doesn't say anything, scientists do. And atheism, which is the rejection of the belief of God, and then theism, of course, is the belief in God, if we just want to be really kind of broad in general. And so when we approach science, when we approach evolution, when we approach, God being in the mix of all of that discussion, we need to remember that it's not science versus Christianity. All the great scientists, when science really began to take hold in the West, were Christians. And they viewed the world as something that they could understand, something that was logical and something that made sense because they believed in a creator that made sense, that was logical, and they understood because of the stability of God and His created order, right? They understood that because it was like that, that we would then be able to discover truths about it, right? It could be studied. It could be, things could be discovered because you could do science, right? Because the God that we believed in. The big difference between the East and the West, so, Western is in Europe, and then the East is in Asia, is they did not believe. They rejected the idea of a creator. And so the science that they didn't really lead them to make the same kind of discoveries that were made in Western civilizations. And a lot of that was because, and this is not just in the Bible, obviously, this is just looking at history. There's a historical difference between what people that believed in a creator, the people that believed in God in the Bible specifically, there's a difference between the science that they did, the questions that they asked, the truths that they pursued, and those that were in the East, Asian countries who kind of rejected all that. And the science was done differently because of their Christian worldview. All right. Now, I say that because we shouldn't assume that just because you're a Christian means that you can't do science or that somehow you're intellectually ignorant in those areas, because it was the Christians that were the big science guys, the big thinkers early on. And even to this day, there's brilliant scientists that are Christians and have strong Christian convictions that are saying, no, when I look at the science, when I look at the evidence, it all points to a creator. And it just makes sense, right? There couldn't be so much exact stuff, I guess, to say it super intelligently, in the universe without a creator, right? We couldn't get here by accident. If evolution was true, how could we in fact get to the point where we are right now, where everything, the universe, literally is fine-tuned to support life, right? Our Earth is fine-tuned, unbelievably fine-tuned to support life. And it's when an atheist scientist talks about creation, and when they talk about the world around us, they will say things like the appearance of design. And so the question is then, well, why is it just the appearance of design? Why is it not just design, right? And so atheist scientists, and next week we'll be sharing some quotes from scientists who are atheists, and they'll say, look, it's not necessarily that the evidence points to atheism and the idea that this is all done without a creator. It's just that our worldview, or the idea, that they hold that there is no God, their atheist worldview, they said it's our worldview that really gets us to believe some ideas that are pretty crazy. It gets us to believe and make jumps and leaps that seem a little outside of common sense, or sometimes way outside. And the what scientists will say, and the quotes that we'll show you, is sometimes they will literally bend the facts to support atheism, because they are so committed to the idea that there is no God that they'll take the information. Even Einstein himself committed like a fraudulent math equation to try to cover up the idea that there was a creator, right? Because it annoyed him that there was a creator, and then and he was Jewish, and then there's when Hubble, right, the Hubble Space Telescope. Once that guy Hubble, it was a real guy. Once he basically definitively discovered that there was in fact a moment of creation, scientists got crazy upset about that, and even Einstein had to then fix his math equation to say, okay, yeah. And so to say that scientists are somehow, oh, it's just the facts and we're not interested in, this or that, that's not always the case, right? They're not robots, they're people. Just like I'm a person, just like you are, we have our own beliefs, and inevitably those beliefs are going to influence what we see, what we experience, and scientists are no different. Now, there's a lot of great scientists out there, and I'm not saying just because a scientist is an atheist that somehow they're bad or they have bad science. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is that when they look at a lot of these things that they claim disprove God, there's a lot of leaps that they're making, and there's a lot of assumptions a lot of times people are making. And they, a lot of the times, are saying, people that believe in evolution and people that believe that all the evidence points to the fact that there's not a God, a lot of those people are just believing something that somebody else has said, who very much has a bent toward atheism, right? And so I just want to, I guess, offer a caution that it's not always necessarily just something that we need to swallow just because some scientist or some smart person said it. Because there's other people, there's other Christians out there that have offered the other side of the argument, but unfortunately we don't hear that a lot. We don't get that side of the argument. And that's hopefully, in a small way, what we're going to be doing next Wednesday. Because obviously we're not going to develop some multi-week lesson outline where it's all super scientific and everybody's like, I have no idea what's being said here. But I do want to challenge 4 different comments that people might make. And so next week, you'll have to come next week to find out what those 4 comments are. But we're going to just at least address those and say, all right, so here's at least a starting point. When you get in those conversations with people, they're like, science has proven this, science has proven that. Well, let's stop a moment and just and think about those kind of comments for a little bit. That's kind of what next week is about. All right, and then as far as money, if I see you, I sent a text message out today, but if I see you this coming Sunday, which I hope I do, I hope I see you all in church this Sunday. We'll come worship together. If you're there for that, you can give me your money then. And if I see you next Wednesday, then you can give me your money then. But for sure, the money is due by next Wednesday because I need to get all that stuff together and sent up because Monadnock is going to want to know that our financial stuff is all secure and that we're ready to go. So I need that in ASAP. And so Wednesday, since we don't have tonight, is the last one for that. If some have texted about help and covering costs and that. So what I will say and what I have texted is that if you absolutely do need help, you'll need to cover some of that cost. I can't just cover the whole cost of somebody. And if you do, you need to get a hold of me, especially before next Wednesday. It's already pretty late in the game, so it's already a little bit of scramble mode. But I need you to remember, next Wednesday is the final on that. Also, as far as announcement stuff goes, February 9th is still our ski trip, so I need to know for sure if you can go on that or not by next Wednesday as well, because I need to start getting an idea of how many cars we need to go up and all those kind of logistical details. So if you're wanting to go on that, it's going to be right after school. We're going to leave here by by 3 p.m. on February 9th, and then we're going to go up there and be back probably around 11. And since I have you on the cool little thing here, yeah, so it's the 9th. I just want to make sure. And we're going to be back around 11. And for that night, it's $60 if you need all the equipment to rent and everything else like that. So that's going to include your lift ticket. That's going to include your ski rentals. So if you're getting a snowboard, it'll be snowboard and a helmet, skis, poles, and a helmet. and then a little bit of money for food. So you will bring all that money. I'm not collecting anything. I just need to know that you're going to show up here on the 9th with $60, and that should cover just about everything that you need. And then also, this Saturday, men's breakfast. So any guys that are interested in that, I would love to see you come to that. Now the whole reason to come to this is so that you can start connecting with some men, and that so you can kind of hear what it's like to be a Christian man. Like, you know, that's where you guys are going and where you're headed, right? So I'd love for you guys to be there to be a part of that and experience that. And that's at 7 a.m. So it's a little early, but it's good breakfast, and it's like just good to hear what other Christian guys are talking about, thinking about. And then small groups. So we do have small groups coming up, and man, I can't get my breath here. So we got small groups coming up for guys and for girls, and I wanted to make sure that we are at least keeping that on the page, because there's a lot of ladies that we've talked about, or talked to rather, and a lot of guys that we've talked to that it's just like, yeah, we need to get some time for just guys and girls to kind of separately sit down and think and talk. And wrestle with some issues that about becoming a man, becoming a woman, all that kind of stuff, and just struggles that there are, and then doing man stuff and doing lady stuff. I don't know what lady stuff is, but I do know what man stuff is, and we're going to do some of that. So next Wednesday we'll be talking a little bit more about that too, trying to get an idea how many we're going to have, because if we have a bunch that are interested, we'll do separate. We'll try to do maybe junior high and senior high, and we'll try to break it up that way. But either way, off the top of my head, that's what's coming up that I can think of. Those are all the important announcements, I hope, and those are some good thoughts about science, and because it is a very interesting topic that we're going to cover. It's a very, very interesting topic, and one that we want to explore together. And other than that, if you have anything for real that you'd like to pray about with me, you can give me a call. If you need to talk about anything, give me a call. If you need just for me to be praying about something, shoot me a text, and I'll make sure either I'm praying about it or we'll get it on our prayer chain, and we'll make sure that you got that stuff covered. Okay? So until next Wednesday, I will be thinking and praying about you. Thinking about you and praying for you. Until then, see ya.